Hey, welcome to the Peanut Gallery. Thanks for joining us. This is this season 2? Should we start with that, season 2?
No, I don't think it's season 2 just yet.
No, we're just continuing on?
We're just going. We took a little break. Albert decided to go on a vacation and,
All right, so the Peanut Gallery is back. Welcome back. And welcome, Dave. I want to welcome you to the Peanut Gallery. Thanks for joining us on our little podcast that we have here in Malahide, Elgin County. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you being here.
Oh, thank you, Patrick. I appreciate it.
This is, if you don't know who Dave Mennill is, he is the mayor of Malahide. I'm surprised you didn't wear some sort of like regalia.
Garb? Too hot for garb today.
Sash and all that kind of stuff. And
I cut that off over 25 degrees. There's no more garb.
That's the limit. Workplace health and health and safety. Like that's good. He's a longtime contributor to Elmer Christmas Care, an avid curler. Trying to break into the Elmer Curling Club is hard to do. And I mean, not like break in like physically, but like to like get in, to like come into your little inner circle there. You guys are always...
We're accepting new curlers all the time.
Hey, like
yeah, I know you're saying
we're didn't you curl once, Albert? Yeah. With the fire department?
Yeah. I went once with the fire department.
He wasn't pretty.
All the guys there were like,
I believe you.
Listen,
I believe you.
We have limits. You guys go to another fundraiser somewhere.
We had fun. That was the main thing.
It is always fun to watch people first try to get out of the hack, eh?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
And all the contribution went to big brothers and sisters, so nobody cared what happened.
Wow, fantastic.
Win, loser.
Well done. Well done.
It is a very hard sport. It does not look as hard as it is.
When you do it versus watching it on TV.
I've gone a couple times. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it. It is so tricky. There are so many aspects of that I'm just like, wow, that is so cool. No wonder. You remember the days, back in the days? I remember watching curling back in the 80s, and everybody was like dad bod. And like they were bigger, it was like you go curling, and then afterwards you're gonna have a couple pops, and you're gonna chill out and relax. And now curling, all the curlers, they're like jacked. They're like crazy. I mean, like
these guys from Northern Ontario, they got muscles coming out here.
It's unbelievable. I'm looking at these guys going, it's curling, but I'm so impressed.
Yeah.
Like the game has really changed that way, but it's really cool. Really enjoy seeing that. Longtime resident of Malahide, rural resident, and been farming for all your life, I guess would be fair to say.
50 years, yeah.
40 or 50 years?
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's not bad. So can you give us a little bit of a backstory on how you and your family ended up in Malahide, in this region? How'd you guys come to be here?
Okay, well, I'll start from day one. I was born in Collingwood.
Okay.
My dad was a forester, and so it was after a research station in Collingwood. Then he got stationed to Dorset, to the Ranger School in Dorset. And so I went there when I was about 4, grew up, went to a school with, 12 kids, 6 of them were the same family, rural area. And then in 1962, when they wanted to open the police college, they seconded my father to come down to Aylmer, which was like coming home because he and my mother are both raised in Glanworth.
Oh, okay.
And so it was like coming home for them, so they're happy to do it. So it was an Air Force base back then. And Dad literally taken it from an Air Force base into the police college you see today.
Oh, so as a ranger, so when you mean ranger, you mean like what was his role doing that? Like obviously there must be authority tied to it, like police ranger? Like
No. He was a forest ranger.
So basically taking care of...
He was an administrator.
Okay.
He had nothing to do with police. I mean, he was in the military, so he had that side. But he had no police background, but he was an administrator, so he knew how to run an operation.
Cool. So that's why they reached out to him to get that thing off the ground and get it started?
And until he was there until he retired, and I think in about 85. Lived in Aylmer. Went to school in Aylmer, met my love of my life in high school. We were married in 71, so we just celebrated our 50th in March of
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is an accomplishment. Seriously, 50 years.
She put up with me, and strange enough. But
so maybe she's the one we should have.
Yeah, probably true. Yeah.
Dave,
my wife is wondering,
how
do you survive?
Well done.
We say we're both the king and queen of compromise. We both give in 90% of the time, so that's part of the marriage. So yeah, we grew up in Aylmer and went to Ridgetown Agricultural College. Left there in 1968. Didn't have enough money to buy a farm, so I worked at Clevite in St. Thomas for 5 years. Then my in-laws wanted to retire. They said, "Are you interested in the farm?" We said, "Yeah." So grew tobacco for 35 years, which we're still on the farm. It was right down from the fire hall, so I got involved in the fire department in '73 and was there for 35 years, and the last 6 were as chief. And that's where Mr. Lowen got involved with the curling. Right?
It's such a small world how this ties in.
Even the way he says Mr. Lowen, you can tell that they did not enjoy it that day.
Mr. Lowen, if that's what I should
you
call
really
you.
blew it this time.
It sounds like a principal calling me in or something.
So maybe give us a bit of an overview. You're talking about fire chief. Maybe give us an overview of some of the different roles that you have been or currently involved in the past. Like I've seen a couple of. I've been trying to find your backstory online. There's some nice little paragraphs, Malahide and who you are as representatives and stuff like that, and what you've been doing. But maybe share with some of the audience some of the different roles, responsibilities, some of the things that you volunteer for, just to get a picture of your involvement in the community over the years.
Okay, well. Political involvement, that started in 1977. And in 1977, there was 1.5 kilometers of hard surface road in Malahide.
That's it?
There was a little bit around the Port Bruce, right around the pavilion, and over on Rogers Road between number 3 and the last house, that was it.
Wow.
And so I had a 70 Duster, and it was just stone chipped, like from one end to the other.
No wonder, like my dad used to take me out. He grew up in the Sparta area and then moved to Farmer, and he used to take us as kids, like back in like 1980, and we'd go driving all the back roads, just hanging out with him on a Saturday morning. So he'd get the 2 boys out of the house, so Mom could have an easier morning without us being there, and we would go have fun. I always remember there being so many more dirt roads.
Oh yeah, gravel roads. Yeah,
and
still some, but not as much. And so I was encouraged to run in politics because everybody was complaining about the dust and the gravel roads. So I said, okay, I'll do that. And there was resistance. They said, oh, we got to keep the taxes low. Well, I've just, paint my car for, $3,000. So
right.
let's take that consideration. So between 77 and now, most of the township roads are hard surface. And so that was my goal.
Now, there is a parking lot just outside here.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do for us? Just say,
we'll look into that one.
All right, thanks.
So I was on council for 10 years, and things got really busy at home with tobacco and our daughter. In fact, the deciding factor was we were at the Sand Hills. I think it was my daughter's 6th birthday, and I had a meeting that night, and I had to say, sorry, see, I got to go to a meeting. And I said, no, this is not right. So I said, okay. So after 10 years, I retired from politics. And then in 2005, the government had a big buyout, and they didn't want us to grow tobacco anymore. So they said, here's a check. And I said, thank you. Freedom 55. And so then I was looking for something to do. So we still had the farm, but we grow corn and beans, and that's, 3 weeks in the spring and 3 weeks in the fall. So I decided to get back into politics and ran in 2006 for deputy mayor because I didn't want to jump from being completely out into mayor. So 4 years as deputy mayor, and then 2010 I became mayor and still there. And then I was in a warden of the county in 2011 and 2020. So that was my political career. I mentioned the fire department, which I loved.
You said 32 years?
35 years.
35 years.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
And
doing
6
that.
years as chief, which I really enjoyed.
So you've had multiple hats.
I've had multiple hats.
Multiple hats.
Pete Unger got me involved in Christmas care. He said, now that you're retired, I need some help. I'm thinking I'm helping Peter. And then the next year he said, I got a job. You look after Christmas care.
So that's how it works.
That's how it works. Yeah, you get in and then you just hand things over. So, yeah, we did that for, 20 some odd years. And now I've handed that hat over to you. I'm still in the background if you need help. But Christmas care meant a lot to me. It's a great thing for our community. And those who are less fortunate, I think we owe that to them.
Yeah. So I also have seen that you were involved in working with hospital, St. Thomas Elgin General Hospital
fundraising. I was on the hospital board and the board of governors for about 10 years, trying to make our community a little better. In fact, when I first got on, there was all this rumor, we're going to rebuild the hospital, and it took 10 years between the time we thought this was a good idea until the construction actually happened.
Right, because it was originally located over by Scott Street Public School in that region, right? And then were you part of the move over to
No, that happened in the 50s.
Okay, so you guys were the expansion and
the
and built
old,
on.
I think it was a Woods, I think his last name was Woods Memorial Hospital was over there.
Right.
And then it was an old wooden building, and they moved to the present location in the I think the 50s. But it needed a lot of upgrading.
Right.
And so, especially the merge, you've got two people side by side, with God only knows what, and no privacy and contagious problems. So they've really done a nice job on the hospital, and I'm very proud that I was part of that.
So that's the most recent expansion?
Yes, the last one that was just done 7 or 8 years ago, I guess.
Yeah, it's a beautiful addition to the hospital. It's amazing. That's fantastic. So anything else you've been involved in? I mean, there's quite a list.
I'm involved in my church in the Knights of Columbus, and I'm an usher, and I'm a part of the St. Vincent de Paul Society, where it helps out those in prison and down in the luck, and something else I agree with.
Man, that's awesome. Thank you so much for all that you've been involved in. The next decision, I want to like understand why your decision to get involved in leadership. Like I know you talked about cars getting chipped up and paint getting chipped up, and how can we resolve that? But what was the factor that really moved you to say I'm going to do that? Why would you jump in?
I think it's probably in my genes. I'll never forget, and my grandfather was out in Glanworth and Belmont, and this is in the 50s. And at that time, there was what we call bums. They have a pack sack over their back, and then we walk in the door, or they knock on the door, ask for a sandwich, and my granddad, gave him a ham sandwich, and he gave him $20. This is in late 50s. That's like $200 today,
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
And so he left, and I said, Grandpa, that guy's probably going to drink it up. And he says, today might change his day.
Wow. Yeah. Wow, your grandpa really understood grace and kindness.
So, is that sort of attitude that said you got to help out your brothers and sisters in your community. So
yeah.
And my dad was in the same position. He had Club 7 in Aylmer with the United Church, and was always involved in Rotary and in the community. And that's if we all work together, we can make this world work.
Yeah, I agree. Oh man, that's inspirational, Dave. I love hearing stuff about Grandpa, and he just pricked something inside of you and lit a fire, and from there, a lifetime of wanting to be involved in serving.
You know what? So one of the things that I love about this podcast is exactly what we're seeing right now. And I love hearing stories because we were talking before, and we won't give the exact conversation, but there was a decision you made or statement you made, and you get all this hate mail, and people and I think we have a tendency to do that with politicians, that we almost dehumanize them and go, well, they if they're a mayor, they desert. You hear your heart behind it, man. I we are so moved by this and inspired by this and hoping, it does that for the community. And so I love that fact, and I'm so thankful that you're willing to share that with us and your years of service and hearing your heart behind it inspires us all the more.
Yeah, it's easy to send I think there's a right place to criticize those who want to criticize, but they're not willing to step up and to get involved. I think it's easy to sit on the sideline and complain about what's going on the field, unless you're willing to put in the time and effort to change what's happening on the field. And so. What does a mayor actually do, Dave? What do you do? Because right now I said, hey, can you come for a podcast? And you're like, I got lots of time.
Well, it's at, with Malahide's about 10,000 people, and literally staff looks after 99% of the decisions because there's protocol. If you get a building permit, the house has got to go up in a certain design. It's got to be past the thing. So you don't get involved in the weeds. Basically you make policy. You have to have a vision on where you want your community to go. For example, I don't know about your place, but our connectivity at our place is just god awful.
For getting online and all that kind of stuff. It's terrible. Yeah.
If you do a test, we're less than 2. We should be at 50. So
they're using those old phone lines.
Yeah. And so as a vision. We said, okay, Eastlink is not going to do anything for us. We've tried to do that for years. And they said, it's not worth our while to put that
yeah.
high speed down the gravel road to hit 5 houses because it's just not cost effective. So we just this past council meeting, we said, okay, let's take the bull by the horns. We're going to put up, well, we put an RFP depending on the price, but we're going to put up 4 towers throughout the community. And certainly, you're within that 5-mile range. It may not be perfect, but it's going to be a heck of a lot better than what you've got right now.
Wow.
So
that'll change a lot of things because
hopefully
especially like right now during COVID, like a lot of rural people connecting to their communities and connecting to their places of worship and connecting to even in wanting to go online and watch a council meeting. In that regard, you can't. You literally can't because people are trying and they've got no connection. They've got they can't download. The speeds are not high enough.
Well, since COVID hit, we're starting to get back into actual in-person meetings. But for a year and a half, we were doing all virtual, and some of them would fade in and fade out, and you would have a voice, but you wouldn't have the video, and it was really frustrating for everybody.
Oh, that's really cool because I know reaching rural has been. I've heard about communities wanting to do it, but it's really neat that you guys are stepping into that and trying to make that happen.
Well, I mean, we did a study, and to put high speed down every road like is $18 million. So you can't saddle that on to 9,000 people because it's just
that's a lot of money.
A lot of cash, yeah.
But putting up the towers, you can cover a lot more.
Yeah, you're not perfect, but at least you're a lot better where we are now. So I guess that's the improvement.
Wow. So basically, you guys, in terms of the role of mayor and council, you guys are kind of like vision casting, directional casting, kind of like shaping, but then you have the team behind you that's like putting in motion all the different things that have been decided, and that's kind of like role of a mayor. Is the mayor like, would you say chief visionary, or are you just kind of like heading up the council in a sense? Like, you guys work together in a team that way? Like, how would you describe that kind of interaction?
You're a CEO, really. Okay. And certainly you're the one that's signing the papers, and you're the ones that cut the ribbons and kissing the babies. But you try to work along with the rest of your council and to come to, it's never, very seldom it's 100% an agreement, but you try to get, you run your meetings properly and give everybody an opportunity to have their own opinion. And at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. And if the vote's 4-3 or 5-2 or 7-1 or 6-1, that's the day.
Let's just roll with it. So what would you point to? I mean, we talk about years of service. I mean, you've thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of serving your community, and not just serving in like a capacity like mayor, but also volunteering in other roles like Christmas Care and on the board at the hospital and different smaller capacities as well, Knights of Columbus and different things that you've been involved in at your local church and community that way. What would you point to as some of your highlights from serving in your community? Like some things that you just go, that one right there, I really, would put my hat on. That one right there, I would really, that's one thing that I was really happy to see happen, or it really impacted or changed, or it was part of that vision that I've always wanted to see happen in my region.
Well, certainly the roads, like I mentioned earlier, that's one thing I'm very proud of. That in fact, we went from 1.5 kilometers to probably 250 kilometers of hardened service. Our fire departments, I've always, I told whenever I was campaigning, I would go to all of the fire departments and say, guys, we can't pay you what you're worth. It's just physically impossible. But we can give you the best equipment and the best housing we can possibly afford. And obviously you can see the new South Fire Station. That's the envy of the community.
Yeah.
So certainly, and I'm very proud of that one. In fact, I think that we've sent the message out that we are a caring community. I'm involved in a lot of fundraising. When we made the fundraising for the East Elm Community Complex, there was one guy in Mount Salem, I won't say a name, but I don't think he had $1,000 to his name, and he said, put me down for $1,000. And that was probably almost all his worth, because he said, I played hockey, somebody else paid my way, I want to help pay for the kids coming forward. So that's another thing I'm very proud of.
Awesome. Insights. What sort of insights would you be willing to share with young people who are wanting to step into leadership roles or to get involved, what kind of things would you say, these are things that you should consider before jumping in, or these are something that you really should think about when you get into roles like running for council or volunteering in the way that you do? What things would you point to that people should really be aware of?
Well, I'm concerned where we're going in the next 20 years because I look at the Rotary Club was just folded. The Lioness are folding. Lions, Optimus, Kinsman, all Knights of Columbus. Most of the guys are 60 plus. And they've been doing the parades and they've been doing the events throughout the year, and there's no young people coming in, and because it's always been done. I think the young people said, "Well, it's going to carry on." Well, no, it's not unless you get involved, and your community is only as strong as the support groups behind it, and these are certainly the ones I mentioned make a good community, and often there's the Kinsmen are probably the most successful in our community, and they've done so much good work on. They were a major contributor to the East Elton Community Complex, and they put the fireworks on and the Christmas parades and so on. So, yeah, when those are no longer able to function because simply age,
right.
We need somebody to fill in that gap. And if there's no gap, then things start to fall apart. So I think my message to the youth, and maybe it's because we're just too busy. Maybe they're too involved. There's, most are two family or incomes. And if you got soccer and you got hockey and whatever, then there's not much time to devote to your community. But we need to think of that going forward if we want to keep the community we have.
So considering, for young people, considering to be able to move forward into our tomorrows, we need to step into roles and take responsibility for how it actually will happen, not just enjoy it, but actually speak into it by our involvement and by our time, and actually take ownership.
And my fear is that all of a sudden we won't have a Christmas parade, or we won't have fireworks on the Canada Day. And they're saying, well, why don't we? Well, because there's nobody to put it on. So I hope it doesn't come to a crisis then, and then they realize that then they have to step up.
Mm-hmm. What sort of challenges or obstacles have you faced in some of these different roles, and what helped you to overcome them?
Well, in politics, you don't win every battle. And there was some things that I thought were going to be advantageous, and I'll be out front. I thought the amalgamation between Elmer and Malahide was a good fit. We had a number of people retiring on both sides, but fear went out throughout the township. Our taxes are going to go up because we joined, so that went down the tubes. So that's a defeat, but. If I'm a ball player and I win half of my games, I'm doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So I think that's the other thing. Well, the other one was the OPP versus the Elmer Police looking after Malahide. That happened at the same time as the COVID hit, and everybody was upset with the Elmer Police not charging those involved, and so their popularity just went through the floor, and so that one went down. But at any rate, like I say.
So how have you personally, you've described to us some of the situations, off camera where, we're local, we're rural, everybody knows who you are. If anybody does any sort of driving around the community, they know where you live. They know how to get a hold of you. Your numbers are everywhere. How do you personally deal with, you've devoted a huge amount of time and effort and heart and soul and money to the community. And your desire is to see the community grow and to advance and to be better for the next generation. Mm-hmm. I can hear it in your voice. How do you handle that stinging criticism? The one that kind of cuts you in that part of your heart and soul where you're trying to help?
Well, if you're going to get in politics or going to get in management, you have to have a thick skin because you're not going to please all the people all the time, and that's That's just a given. But I will say probably, I'm going to have 26 years involved in politics, and I think I'm probably getting towards the end of my career. That 98% of the people appreciate what you're doing. There's that 2% that you're not going to please that want to attack you. And, you got to figure, okay, that's their loss, not my loss. If they're unhappy and they want to be in that frame of mind, let them be.
So you literally have to have the mindset that you're just going to let them be that 2% that's going to criticize.
Yep, and you're not going to please them, so you're just
going to move forward. And
certainly initially when that happened in early years, I said,
I can't imagine, getting calls like that. And you're like, well, you weren't there. You didn't leave your family at the Sandhills to go to a meeting. You didn't sacrifice time. You didn't it's great that you made the phone call. Thanks for your criticism of what's happening, but man, that's tough. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it wasn't easy for the wife. I'm sure it wasn't easy for the family.
It's been a contribution. And my wife, I depend on her because she's knows connectivity, and I am really struggle with it. So I'll get halfway through something, and then things will freeze, and help me out with it. Yeah. And she'll calm down. Here we go. Blah 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 blah. And we get back online. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah, that's one thing I know for us personally. We rely heavily on our spouses to help carry that load, and I think sometimes people don't see that role that they have.
No, they're in the background, and the old saying is that for every successful man, there is a determined woman and a surprised mother-in-law.
Yeah. All right. So, in a very general sense, okay. So we're trying not we're trying not to be too. We're not really like political on our show. At least we've tried not to be, at least in terms of positional party sense. But with the federal elections coming up, what sort of things should residents of this region should be looking for in a candidate in terms of how their decisions of a greater party, federally speaking, impact our region? Like what things? I mean, you've been in the seat you've been in for 26 years of serving in politics. You know how things work from the top down better than most. Like I don't have a clue how some of the stuff impacts the way you would have an understanding. So what would you look for in a candidate? And in terms of who am I going to cast my vote for and why?
It's always a tough decision because you've got your local candidate and then you've got the leader in Ottawa.
Right.
And you may like the leader in Ottawa, but you don't like the leader in the local candidate or vice versa. And so it's always a tough decision. But I would think that, in fact, I'm a card-carrying, I'm not going to say any party, but I've voted for both parties, depending on the candidate. Mm-hmm. And if that candidate is honest, hardworking, upfront, doesn't try to pull any punches, that's who I'm voting for. And that's what I would suggest to.
So you're looking for honesty, integrity, you're looking for the straightforwardness, because it's not a game.
No. I mean, because when you have a problem or there's a problem in your community, you're not going to phone up the leader. You're going to phone up your local candidate, say, what can we do about this? And that's what I would suggest, that you look at the candidates, look at their background, look how dedicated they are, and that's when you should be voting for them.
All right. So where do we go from here? Where, in terms of what are your plans moving forward? Like you've been serving a long time. You say, I'm starting to get near the end. You're kind of hinting that you're getting near the end, but I feel like maybe there's one more in me. Maybe then there's something else there. Like what are your plans moving forward?
Well, at the end of this term, I'm going to be 73, and so. Do I want to
listen? There's a president that's like 78.
Do I want to sign up for?
Come on,
that's going well. Really well.
I want to sign up for another 4 years, and that's the real question. And my wife said, "I think you've probably done your time," and so there would have to be a really good reason for me to run again. But that saying, I also want to leave the township in good hands. So if there's someone that I think is not responsible, then I might consider running again.
Mm-hmm. What would you like to see happen in Malahide? moving forward? Like what would you like to see take place in our
Well,
community?
another project we've got online is we want to grow our community. You can't leave your community stagnant. It always has to grow. And so to improve that tax base, we're looking at Springfield and getting, we've already got sewage in Springfield, but we don't have municipal water. So if we can get municipal water into Springfield, we can probably put up 400 or 500 homes. That would make sure that school is still there for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
That would improve our tax base. And as well, there's such a demand for housing right now. I'd hate to see people going to other communities just because there's no room right in Malahide.
Yeah, housing is one of the big issues that we've noticed. It's huge. Like in working at the Family Central, we have a waiting list, or at least we've been contacted by almost 200 plus people to try to find short-term or emergency housing or housing that they'd be able to get into. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of people that are looking for that. So
if we can do that, you'll supply the local population that wants it, but it'll probably bring in some people from the outside. But it'll also free up existing houses that people are said, okay, I'm going to sell my house and I'm going to build a new one in this Springfield community.
Yeah.
So I think that it's kind of a win-win situation all the way around.
Yeah, it'd be really awesome to see some development take place like that. That'd be fantastic. So you yourself, though, okay, so that's Malahide, our region. You yourself, you've obviously been heavily involved. You've probably put off a lot of stuff in life. Is there anything that you and the family, the wife, you guys are, when she's probably sitting there going, when he's done, we're gonna,
We made a commitment 50 years ago that we will always leave time for ourselves. And my wife was a teacher, and I grew tobacco. So in the winter time when I was free, she was working. When the summertime when she was free, I was working. So, but we would always take at least 2 weeks and go somewhere.
Nice.
Probably one of my favorite trips. I think our daughter was 7, and my wife wasn't teaching at that time, and so we literally. I don't know. You're too young to know. Dinah Shore said, "See the USA in your Chevrolet," and we had an 80.
I remember this.
Do you? We had an 85 Oldsmobile. We said, "Let's see the USA in our Chevrolet." So we took off in I think March and left for 7 weeks went to California and all the way around, and that was probably one of my favorite vacations. But we've always left time for us to go somewhere. In fact, funny story, in her 50th anniversary, we wanted to do something special. So we said, well, the Orient Express, let's look into the Orient Express. Have you ever heard of the Orient Express?
I've heard of the Orient Express, but
Murder on the Orient Express is
okay.
Agatha Christie.
So train and yeah.
Well, it's a luxury train that runs from Paris to Istanbul and hits all the capitals of Europe.
Okay.
And it's just, it's like the high end of trains. So we looked and we said, well, let's look into that. And so went online and there was a price list, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000. And Judy said, well, we're not taking the 15. That's going to be a crowded cabin. We're married 50 years. Let's spend the 20,000. I said, okay, let's go for the 20,000. He went along a little further, said, this is in British pounds. So 20,000, that's about 35,000. And then you went down a little further and it said, per person, doesn't include gratuities. And I said, whoa, holy, that's $70,000
to ride a train.
Yeah.
What a ride.
Yeah.
But,
and what do you tip somebody after you spend $70,000?
yeah, what's 10% of that, right?
Yeah.
15? They're expecting 20%, man, in pounds.
So he said, well, maybe not this time. So we thought, well, let's go to the Rocky Mountaineer. And then you get the forest fires out west, so that was canceled. So we're in September. We're going to go to Quebec City and Montreal for a couple of weeks. And
nice.
Just do some vacationing.
I'm sure, Dave, that you can put a line out there, and I'm sure somebody's got an 85 Olds.
Well, probably.
And you'd be able to purchase you'd be able to go retro.
Yeah. Well, I've got a 55 Thunderbird, which we did the Route 66.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Original or the new? With the highways and I know Route 66 runs parallel to a lot of those highways through the.
It starts in Chicago and ends up in L.A., but a lot of the time you're on the old Route 66 and then you'll go onto an interstate and then you get to go back off onto the Route 66.
What a cool road.
Yeah. Yeah, through the desert was mine.
Did you do that in the Thunderbird?
No,
Oh, okay.
because it's great to on parades and going from here to St. Thomas, but no, 6,000 miles.
Yeah, it's a good point. Everybody thinks riding a motorcycle. I mean, I had one for years, but I mean, it's nice to go for a little spin around and to go up and down the lakeshore and different things. But long haul, it's stressful. It's not fun.
Well, I mean,
at least I didn't find it that way. I'm sure there's people out there that are like, no, man, that's like the greatest experience ever. Like I took it down to Tennessee one time, and I mean, through the mountains. I mean, beautiful on a motorcycle. Terrible in the rain.
Yeah.
I mean, we did like 4 hours through heavy downpour. It was like terrible experience, but yeah.
Yeah, no, the technology in '55 you didn't have the air cushion rides and like you do today. So yeah, it was not quite the same.
Oh man, that's awesome. I don't know. Do you guys have other questions that you're looking to add? Well,
Great.
yeah. Hey, I want to say thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, your journey in our community. I want to say thank you again for all your service and what you've done. Thank you for continuing to serve. I get the impression, just based on from what I've known of you, that you're not going to put it in a park. That doesn't seem like it's part of your DNA.
No, my wife said he was born with a busy gene, so he'll be doing
so my
something.
my expectation as like we look to move into taking over Christmas Care is that you're only one phone call away.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm always there.
All right.
He may not pick up the phone, but it's definitely there.
It's him again. Click. Hey, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for your time. And thank you for joining us on the Peanut Gallery. Again, I hope everybody has a great day.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, guys.